Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Wealthy Sailor. I am John, and this is the place you come to if you have questions regarding finance or if you just want to keep up with me and my personal goals, because I know some people just, love hearing about how other people are doing with their financial goals. So recently I've been pushing out the videos, and a lot of my friends have been watching it, and because of that, a lot of my own friends have been asking me questions. So I've been actually really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed answering questions and trying to come up with plans and just helping people out as much as I can, keeping in mind that I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who really is interested in this stuff, so I don't mind sitting down with people and helping them with budgets and stuff like that. Well, on that note, I recently was asked where somebody should start investing, and that is an extremely complicated question to ask. So I'm just going to go through my process a little bit with you guys today. So whenever somebody asks me where they should start investing, my first question is always, does your employer offer a matching 401k program? If they do, my first recommendation for anybody, and this goes for almost any situation you can imagine, always take the employer match 401k. The reason I always recommend taking the employer match 401k is because it's almost like you get a pay raise overnight. You're not getting that money directly in your bank account, but you are getting it into your investment account, whatever you're invested in with whichever company your employer has for handling your 401k. So you're getting that net worth. You're helping yourself prepare for retirement, which is something that we should all be doing from literally from the first day we start a job, but this helps force it, and you're getting free money from your employer because they're matching it. So I always recommend, almost no matter what the situation is, take the employer match 401k and max it out to whatever the employer will match. Okay, so after you figure out the 401k thing, the second question is actually pretty simple. Do you have any debts where the interest rate is 6% or more? If the answer is yes, it's almost always better to pay that off before you start investing into anything else. And the reason being is, even if you have a 10% return on a fund, then the thing is, after you pay fees and stuff, you're probably down to about 8%. So that's only a 2% difference. So I really suggest you pay off your debts. If you're at 6%, then I can see the variation in it, and I can understand why people would want to just invest rather than pay off your debt because it's only 6%. But when I point this part out, I really mean it more for the people with credit card debt that are paying 15% or more, because there's no way you'll even come close to that amount of return in most safe investments. I mean, sure, I can point out a few things that have doubled in price each year, but they're few and far between, and honestly, they're not predictable, they're not safe. So pay off at least your high interest credit card debts, and in some cases, car debts. Once that's paid off, then you can move to the next step. Step 3 for how you should start investing. Do you have an IRA? Whether it's traditional or Roth, the difference of which will depend on your personal choices when it comes to retirement and stuff like that. You can put up to $6,000 a year into an IRA without having tax implications. So I strongly suggest doing that. Okay, so after you get your 401k, after you pay off all your bad debts, and after you've at least looked into IRAs, depending on what you want to do with retirement, then next step. What's the money for? Are you trying to invest for a long term, medium, or short term? And the reason this is important is because certain funds are really good for long-term investment because they fluctuate up and down. And if you have 30 years before you need that money, you can afford to take a downtick in it. But if you're, say you want the money in 1 year, you need it 1 year, then you probably don't want to put in the stock market because, or at least not in certain things in the stock market, because if it fluctuates down, then you're stuck and you need the money in a year. The stock market, I have found, is really good when you need it like a long-term off, like a decade or more. But once you get within a decade of needing that money, you need to start filtering the money to other funds. There are certain lifestyle funds that are really good with this. You can invest in them once, and then they will take your money out of high risk, like international funds and stocks, and start putting it more into bonds. once you get closer to retirement, because they want to make sure it's as safe as possible for you at retirement because they know you need it soon. 50 years out, you don't need to worry about that. So if you take that ideology and you move it to this, if you're asking for my investment advice and you need it for long term, then it's very simple. Mutual funds, index funds, all really good. Now, that's good in the sense that it's a long-term investment. Some of these have fees, some of these are not fiduciary, so make sure you do due diligence. I'm not advocating a specific stock or a specific fund at all. I'm just saying, generally speaking, stocks, index funds, mutual funds, these are all long-term investments. And those long-term investments are mainly for if you're saving it for retirement, or if you're like trying to put something together for kids, like a trust fund type thing, inheritance, stuff like that. I would not recommend you investing in this stuff if you need the money for a medium or short-term goal. So what is a medium goal? It's really a lot of things, but the two that stuck out to me are kids' college funds. So let's say you start when they're born, you have 18 years for it to grow. So then that's like a medium goal. And then another medium goal would be like if you want to get a home. Some people want to start planning for their home about 5 years in advance. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, and I don't think a lot of people do it, but I think that's probably what you should shoot for. So these are all medium goals. And for medium goals, I recommend stuff like a money market account, something that it usually has a minimum balance requirement. So you have to have a certain amount in there, maybe $5,000, or else you get charged a fee. But once you have that amount in there, it's like a savings account, except you get more interest back, usually to maybe 3%. Some CDs are okay. Even the Child 529 plan for college, that's a really good tax advantage plan. That's not really an investment, it's more of a plan for investment because you can invest in stuff within the plan. But these are all different options if you want medium length goals. Then you have short-term stuff. Short-term stuff's anything. It's you have a vacation you want to save up for, you want to save up for a new car, whatever. These are all things that are really short-term, maybe a year or more. And in this case, I really just personally, I just keep stuff in a savings account if it's within a year. If I know I'm going to need the money within a year, it's in a savings account, that's all. I have been using Acorns, which, by the way, this will be my pitch for if you want to sign up with Acorns and we both get free stuff, link below. But if you want to use Acorns, I use that for short-term stuff because it builds interest. The problem is if there's a dip in the market and you need it, you're going to take the loss. I don't really know if that's the best for everybody. It works for me. If not, your regular savings account works fine. It's like maybe 0.5%, 1% return. You can get a short-term CD. Some CDs I've seen for banks are only 1 or 2 years, so you can get that, and that'll get you maybe 1 or 2%. But you can do different things in order to have the money very liquid in case you need it, but also earn you something. But you're not going to earn a lot for your short-term stuff. But that's fine because you're not really trying to earn a lot for short-term investment. It's all about making money back and having it be safe and secure and available when you need it. So, take the good with the bad here. If you want it available and you want it safe, you're not going to get much of a return on it. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I do. I am not recommending this. I'm not even saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying I do it. I've had luck with it. It takes a little bit of work, but it's not bad. So I'm going to give you the information and then everybody can decide individually what they want to do. So I have my Robinhood account, which, okay, another pitch. Robinhood, free stuff. Both of us. We both get free stuff. My Robinhood account is mainly set up for only 1 or 2 things. One, I buy dividend stocks with it because I like to get dividend returns. But I also use it to buy troubled assets. And when I use the term troubled assets, I mean, like, if you remember a couple of years ago, well, I feel like 10 years ago now, when BP had an oil rig leaking oil into the Gulf of Mexico, their stock price went down 50%. So I bought a bunch of it because I knew within a couple months it would go back up, and it did. And I sold it. Same with Toyota when their brakes were failing and people were crashing and stuff. Pretty much every time a company has like a PR disaster, but I think the company will recover and be able to live through it, I buy stocks in there for a very short-term increase. Now, the reason I'm cautious to tell people about this is because, one, there's not always a deal available for it. So if you go on, you're like, oh, I want to invest in something today, and you start looking for something, something might not be available. Sometimes I don't make a buy for that strategy for months, just waiting because nothing looks good to me. But then I have the money available when something does happen, and I make sure I buy and sell and do what I need to do for that. Also, you have to have a lot of time to research the company because you have to make sure they're going to survive whatever it is that they're doing. Like, for example, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, but Volkswagen got caught in this huge thing where it turns out they were pretty much figured out a very creative way to fake the US emission standards for their diesel automobiles. It's actually pretty interesting. They wrote a code so that if their car is running and the steering wheel is being used, it pretty much shuts off the electronic component that cleans all the exhaust. Now the reason they do that is because if you have that on, it degrades the component. So the reason people didn't like to buy the cars is because they didn't want to have to replace the component. So they got this idea, well, somebody there did, it's still up in the air of who actually came up with the idea, but somebody there got the idea like, okay, well, let's turn the component off. But if the steering wheel is not being used, it'll stay on. So when you put it up on a dyno and you run it, the steering wheel's not being moved, right? So the component gets turned on, which means it was passing all of its emission standards tests. Amazing. It actually took a competitor to buy a bunch of these cars to try to figure out what they were doing so they could copy it to figure out, oh, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Anyway, sorry I got into it. I just think it's a fascinating story. But when this happened, Volkswagen stock took a huge dip. The thing is that I thought, based on the information I was getting, I thought Volkswagen was about to get banned from being sold in the US. And although they have a lot of overseas holdings, that would mean that their stock might go up, but it's not going to go back up in a year. Like, it's going to take years and years for them to kind of go back to where they were before if they lose out on the US market. So I did not buy any of it. Now, they didn't. The stock did go back up within a couple months, but I didn't know that. So, live and learn, I guess. But my point is that if you're going to take the buy troubled asset system, make sure you're very careful about which deals and what troubled assets you actually want to put your money in, because like I said, it's your money, so make sure you protect it. Well, anyway, guys, I hope this helps clear up some questions about like how to start investing and where I recommend you. I think some people wanted me to just tell them the name of a stock or a stock program, and honestly, I don't work that way. I'm just not that guy. That's not my specialty. That's not what I like to do, and I'm not going to pitch individual stocks. I guess if they paid me a lot, but then I would have to tell you they're paying me. So probably not. So I'm not going to pitch individual stocks. So do your own research, take my advice if you want to, and come up with your own plan. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you learned something, give me a like or a share or subscribe. Leave a comment below. Anyway, thank you for watching, and keep saving.